Hello out there. Welcome to another edition of Bolts Breakdown. We hope your day is much better than Yaroslav Halak. He was just slamming his goalie stick. He broke it over the crossbar. He's actually sitting in the Lightning on the Lightning bench right now. He is not too happy. So we hope everybody out there is having a better day than Halak is. Bryan Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Recher 95.3 WDAE will be broadcasting live from right here in the DAE den from 3 to 7 today. Burns will join us at 3:30. We'll also talk to the great Phil Esposito at 5:05, so you're not going to want to miss that one. 95.3 WDAE.
Well, I'm going before Phil. I don't want to have to follow that.
Yeah, that's right. AM 620 and also all the time on the iHeart Radio app. Before we get into tonight's game against the Boston Bruins, let's look back, Burnsy, at that game the other night. What an unbelievable performance again from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you don't want to continually fall behind. But you know what, Burnsy? This team is so damn good offensively that they always seem to find a way, and they did it again the other night against Detroit.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway from that victory is just when you look at what this team's been able to do through these first, 29, 30 games into the season, they find different ways to win. It's, they can get out. There was that stretch where they were jumping out to big leads in the first period and just kind of overwhelming teams in the first and then kind of cruising to victory. We've seen the games where they've fallen behind in the first and then chipped away and gradually come back and tie it and win the game. We saw the game in Detroit where 3 different times they were down. Twice they were down by 2 goals, and it just really doesn't seem to matter. They came down from 3 goals down in Florida before that. So for me, that's probably the most impressive thing about what we've seen from this Tampa Bay Lightning team so far this year is they've just been finding different ways to win. It doesn't really matter what the formula is. I think John Cooper had a pretty good line after that game in Detroit. Like, it doesn't matter what the recipe is. We don't, giving up 5 goals isn't a recipe for success, but the win is the final product, and however it takes you to get to that final product, it really doesn't matter. And they're doing this without Andrei Vasilevsky. They're doing it without Anton Strawman. They've had Andre Palat out for a long stretch. They had Victor Hedman out for a long stretch. They're just finding ways to win games, and that's what's been really impressive about this team.
As always here on Bolts Breakdown, we want to hear from you. So make sure right there on the bottom of the screen, let us know where you're watching Bolts Breakdown from. Put your location. We'll shout you out on the air. Also, share this on your Facebook. We're trying to get the word out. We're trying to spread the news and have everybody out there being the Thunder and joining in on Bolts Breakdown. And also, throw us some love and likes. I want to see the little hearts and the little thumbs up popping up on the screen. That'd be great, too. Before we get into tonight's game, and Bryan gives you his 3 keys to victory, and I give you my one guy to watch for the Boston Bruins. And no, it's not going to be David Backes, who was wearing high waters on the way out of here. Come on, man. You got all that money. Why don't you get a tailor to get those pants down past your ankle, brother? Come on. Let's talk about the news, or lack thereof, from John Cooper. He spoke after morning skate today. He gave us an update, or kind of an update, on Andrei Vasilevsky and Anton Strawman. I'll take Vasi, you take Strawman. You surprised about no news on Strawman?
No, not really. I mean, he was scheduled to be reevaluated yesterday. At least that's what was said last week. They said, who's Valley? They said last week, this is the second time I've seen that.
Yeah, no.
They said last week that he was going to get reevaluated yesterday, and we'd have a little bit better idea. No real update. Said we're still kind of playing the waiting game with Anton Strawman. So, we'll see, I guess, later on this homestand, whether he gets out there on the ice, what he's doing. But, yeah, nothing on Strawman so far.
Vasilevsky, again, saw him walking by in a boot. He's still not out there skating. John Cooper said after morning skate today that it's going to be probably a couple more weeks. So I know next week is the 4-week mark, and a lot of people wanted to see, hey, is he going to be back 4 weeks instead of 6 weeks? I don't know. We talked about this on the last Bolts Breakdown. Burnsy said before New Year's. I said after New Year's. I don't know. Does your opinion change at all after what you heard from John Cooper today? Because he did mention, it's going to be a couple more weeks. And, he has to – it's not like, all right, he's going to heal and then, boom, he's going to get right back into games.
Yeah.
He's still got to get back on ice. He's still kind of got to get in game shape. Does that, did your mind change at all after what you heard from Cooper today?
I still think it's going to be after the Christmas break, but before the end of the new year. There's a couple home games here on the 27th and the 29th, and then the team goes for the California trip. They play Anaheim on the 31st.
You going on that
LA.
one?
I'm not going to be on that trip. I'm going to be
on.
on the following trip. I think
Okay.
it's Buffalo, the Islanders, and Dallas, I believe.
Okay, nice.
I'll be on that trip.
I want to see Burnsy. Raise your hand or give me a like if you want to see Burnsy in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots.
I definitely will not be
Not
in a
happening?
cowboy hat. I'm not
Not a Cowboy?
Not a big Dallas fan. Just
No.
I'm watching a Redskins fan, so Dallas, Cowboys, the whole rivalry there.
Got that. Hail to the Redskins, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so I'll be on that trip. Not going to be on the California trip. I think Vasilevsky will probably, I think maybe he can get in like for the 27th. But yeah, like you said, like they clear him, and it's not just automatically like he can go back out there and he's ready to play. He's going to need to get his conditioning back. And while it's not like the same as like an Anton Stroman or an Andre Palat or a guy like that needs to get their conditioning back, it's still going to take him a little bit of time to work his way back into it. And I don't think they want to rush him back either, particularly with the way that Louis Domingue's been playing. He got a little bit of a respite or respite.
I like it. Respite. I like it. Respite's
with
right.
Eddie Pasquale going in. And playing pretty well. So, they feel comfortable with Louis Domingue right now, and I just don't see them rushing him back. But I still think before the end of the year.
Louis Domingue was in the starter's net today, first one off the ice, so he will be in goal tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning, so that should be a pretty entertaining game against the Boston Bruins tonight. It's going to be really entertaining. Shout out to Raleigh Springer. Dallas sucks. Also watching from the Bahamas. Joe Arnold in Newport Richie. Matthew from Tampa. John Zaleski always watching from New York. And Andreas Magnusson from Sweden. You ever been to Sweden?
I have not.
We got to go to
not
Sweden.
Been to Sweden. Maybe the Lightning will get one of those global games that they have right at the beginning of the year, and tailor-made. You got Anton Stroman, you got Victor Hedman. Maybe a little divisional matchup with Buffalo, perhaps, with some of their Swedish players. I could see something going on there. Why not? Let's make it happen.
That's a great idea. Andrew, we already mentioned Strawman. No new news on him. Cooper just mentioned that before, so hopefully we'll have more news on Strawman over the next couple weeks. Brian Burns, beat writer, TampaBayLightning.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BBurnsNHL, Recher 95.3 WDAE. Follow me on Twitter at Recher. Let's look to tonight's game with the Boston Bruins. They still got some of their guys out on the ice skating with some of the coaches. What are the three keys to victory for the Bolts against the Bees tonight?
Biggest one for me is you've seen, the Lightning have put up a lot of goals here in these last few games. So they've also given up a lot of goals. And that was something that was a big point of emphasis for them coming into training camp. They really wanted to get that goals against average down. So
they did it early on.
Yeah, early on they were good. You got to look at the circumstances too. With Vasilevsky out, with Strawman out, that's a big key part of your really maybe your best defensive defenseman, other than maybe Ryan McDonough. And how good that pair has been. So with those two guys out, you expect your goals against to go up a little bit. But yeah, for me, clean up some of the defensive breakdowns that we've seen here of late, especially in that Detroit game. There were a couple goals where it was just kind of not enough attention to detail, and it led to a really easy chance for Detroit, and they were able to capitalize on those opportunities. So for me, just clean up some of those defensive breakdowns and deficiencies we've seen creep into their game here of late. Number two for me, I think Boston's going to come out with a vengeance here to start this game. They had a really poor game in Florida 2 nights ago. They were shut out 5-0 by the Panthers.
For a team, last place team, too.
Yeah, kind of had their manhood called out by their coach as well. He said it was kind of a game of men against boys. Wow. So anytime your coach kind of puts you on blast like that and you have a poor performance, you expect to see that team come out with a little bit of fire in their next game. So I think in the first period, they're probably going to be rough. They're probably going to be physical, just like we've seen from these Boston teams of the past. They're probably going to come out with a little extra motivation. So for me, for the Lightning, it's just important to kind of weather that storm. Also weather that storm of coming back from a road trip. The first couple shifts coming back from a road trip can be a little bit tough on home ice. So just kind of weather that early period and then find your chances to counterattack after that.
Boston was working, was it here or Brandon? I know they were in town.
No, they were here yesterday, yeah.
I heard they had a really spirited practice. Was looking at that online yesterday. They said that it was a pretty spirited practice. We didn't see too many of their big guys on the ice today, so it'll be interesting to see that the start of the game is going to be really telling for sure.
Yeah, and then third point for me is just no shenanigans for the Lightning. We've seen this Boston team in the past. They like to agitate. We all know what Brad Marchand can do. I don't think he'll be licking anybody this go around. It's not quite.
You never know.
Yeah, it's not quite that point. I think he saves that for the playoffs, but. Just don't get caught up in any of that. We've seen how Cedric Paquette, how Yanni Gourde, how they can do it for the Lightning, how they can agitate other teams, and it turns into a penalty, and the Lightning can take advantage of that. So don't let Boston be that team. Don't let them be that agitating team. Don't let them get under your skin. and I think the Lightning should have a pretty good chance to come out of here with a victory tonight.
Andrew Tracy, I love it. Number 4 key, don't get licked. I like that. We did it all day yesterday on 95.3 WDAE with Ron and Ian. We had people call in all day with a message for Marchand.
Oh, yeah.
And we gave away 4 tickets, so it was a lot of good stuff, a lot of great messages from our listeners. No more kissing on ice. Yoko from Jacksonville, thank you. Aaron Novakovic. Kalorner's probably sweating right now. Yeah, as long as he doesn't get licked, everything will be fine. But you're looking at a team in Boston that's dealing with a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
You know, arguably their best player.
And playing
both
pretty
ways.
well. I mean,
they are,
all things
despite of
considered,
that.
kind of treading water.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know what Brad Marchand brings to the table, but my one guy to watch is David Pastrnak, one of my favorite players to watch in the NHL. He's big, he's fast, he's tough, he does a little bit of everything. He scores goals in bunches, he scores goals from weird angles. He's a high-effort guy and a high-talent guy to go with the size and skill. He's one of those guys. You put Braden Point, or we say Braden Point, you can put the 4th line on him as well.
Yeah.
That was one of the main topics of conversation after morning skate today with Paul Kennedy, and if you watch the game tonight on Fox Sports Sun, that's going to be a big emphasis on that, is that 4th line and how good that they've been playing defensively. Brian Callahan talked about them wanting to chip in more offensively, but I want to see how they shut down that line, because that was kind of the big point of contention going into the series in the playoffs last year is, all right, you get through that Devil series. Remember how good that Bruins top line was in that first round. And then the second round.
First game,
in the first
6-2
game,
here at, I mean, they absolutely blew the doors off the Lightning in that game.
And the adjustments that the Lightning made, I think, really kind of catapulted them to have a great, strong defensive performance against them. But I think that carried that into this year. So you saw the defensive responsibilities from guys like Braden Point and the guys on that line, and then including the fellas on the 4th line. So we're probably looking at the same lineup, I would think, as Detroit the other night, right?
Yeah,
With
we
the same
saw like we didn't see Ryan Callahan at the beginning of morning skate, and Adam Ernie was taking his spot on that 4th line, but then Callahan showed up about 10 minutes into the morning skate and got a good-natured ribbing from some of his teammates. So I don't know if that was a case where he's getting some extra training, if he woke up a little late, was a little late to get to the morning skate. I don't know what that was. So we'll keep an eye on that during warm-ups and see if Callahan's still in that 4th line role, or if maybe Adam Ernie gets in after being scratched for the last few games. But hearing David Pasternak's name reminded me of last year during that playoff series. There was this lady in Boston outside the arena. I saw her a couple times. Had a hat that said pasta, and then on top was a plate of pasta.
No way.
Like, I don't know if it was like, I didn't take too good a look at it to know if it was an actual legit plate of pasta or if it was like a fake plate. But it had a little, like, pasta, meatballs, fork sticking out of it, like the whole 9 yards. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
I'm telling you, man, Brian Burns brings the heat, brings the kind of the information.
I couldn't believe someone would leave their house dressed like that, personally.
If you can find a picture of that, make sure you tweet it at Brian.
That's why I'm not a social media maven. Like, I definitely should have taken a picture of that and posted it. Didn't even think about it until just now. Hearing you say that, I'm like, why didn't I get a picture of that?
Pasta. If you guys want a question or two, let's get them in before the end of the show here, so feel free to put them there. Let us know where you're watching from. Make sure you share this on your Facebook. Like Dana Andres, always watching. Thank you so much down there in St. Pete. Two of the things that I really looked at they haven't won a game in December.
Boston. Who's Boston?
Well, there's only been 2 games, but they haven't won a game in December, and the Lightning haven't lost one. They're 3-0, so that's pretty convenient. But the thing I was really looking at is, if you listen to Lightning Hockey Night last night on 95.3 WDAE, Bobby the Chief Taylor, he was talking about how good that the Lightning were trailing after 2 periods, and about how when you look at the stats of certain teams, the winning percentage is so low.
Yeah.
And I looked at it before we got on air today, and I saw that the Lightning are 4-4 after, with trailing after 2 periods, which is crazy to be 500. In comparison, Boston is 0-8.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to think.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I put that in the game notes for this game.
I
think I heard someone, it might have been Chief or someone had said that on the broadcast. Like, the Lightning have been really good at coming back in the second period. I thought, let me go check it out. Yeah, number 1 in the league for. I think one team has like 6 wins. I want to say it was like Minnesota has 6 wins, but they've also lost more than they've won. But yeah, for winning percentage, went down by 2, or went down and going into the third period, the Lightning are tops in the NHL, 4-4-0.
And it's crazy because it's only happened 8 times, so that just shows you how good that they played.
I'm actually surprised it's 8 times that they've gone into the second period trailing.
That it is and more.
Yeah.
Dana, we mentioned this before. Hey, Jordana from Hollywood. Dana, we mentioned Vasi not on the ice, still in the walking boot. It's so weird. We were talking about this the other day. It's like, noticing Vasi. Like, I notice Vasi all the time. Like, I see him, like, every time I come here, he'll, like, walk behind everybody and nobody will see him. I'll be like, there's Vasi again, man, with that boot on. So
they call him the big cat. He's sneaky.
That's right, man. He was walking around with the boot on. We're still, Burnsy thinks he's going to come back after Christmas break, before New Year's. I think after New Year's. Either way, I think, it's probably less than a month away. We're going to see him come back. This team has lofty expectations, Stanley Cup aspirations. No need to rush him back, and we've seen this with the Lightning before, Burnsies. No matter who it is, whether it's Vasi or Hedman or Palat or Stammer or anything, they never rush guys back. There's such a, of course it's easy to do that when you have a team full of depth as well as they do, but again, you're thinking long-term for this team, not a short-term fix, so it makes sense that he's just kind of chilling out right now.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think, like, could this team win a Stanley Cup with Louis Domingue as their netminder?
I don't think so.
No? He's played well, but if you look if they have to go all the way till next year, like you think it's going to be 2019 before we see Andrei Vasilevsky, that's 11 more games before the start of the new year. So I mean, that's a lot of games. It's already been 12, 13 that he's been out.
12, yeah.
He's missed a decent chunk of the season, and for the Lightning to be where they are right now, still at the top of the NHL. They're starting to create a little bit of separation between themselves. Toronto's still kind of hanging there, but Buffalo's lost a few now. I think they're like 5 points back. You looked at Boston teams in fourth place, and they're either like 9 or 10 points back. Like, there's some separation going on right now with the Lightning. They've been able to extend this lead with Vasilevsky out. It's pretty crazy.
You usually think that when you have your backup goaltender in the game, all right, just tread water, play 500 hockey, just try to stay in the mix, and then when you get Vasi back, you get back and you extend that lead. But you're right. I mean, it just shows the fortitude of this team and how deep they are, that even when the backup netminders, just think about it. It's 12 games now that Vasi's been out. The backup goalie's been 9-3. 8-3 from Louis, 1-0 from Eddie Pasquale. And before we go, how cool was that to see Pasquale get that win, man? I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it doesn't have to be pretty. For a guy that waited that long to get his first NHL start, he gets in there and comes away with the victory. A couple of nice saves in the shootout. Just really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think the best part about it was he's from Toronto, and it was an easy drive for a lot of his family to get over into Detroit and watch that game. So he said he had his mom and dad there, he had his fiance there, brother, sister, thought he had a couple other relatives there. So really good that he was able to share that moment with his family and, kind of go through that experience with them. It had been 9 years or so of him bouncing around the AHL, even going down to the ECHL, was out of the game for a season in 2014-15 after recovering from a hip surgery. Thought that he might not play again, and for him to get that opportunity, really good to see that from him.
Debbie, you were at the game in Detroit. That's awesome. That distant thunder, man. You guys are all over the place. We really do appreciate you. One more. Joseph Arnold, what are they going to do when Strawman comes back? Who is going down to the minors? That is the hot topic of conversation. The more games that Eric Chernak plays, the more people say that he should stay up, because he really has acquainted himself very well. He doesn't look like he's a fish out of water. But still, at the end of the day, to me, Burnsy, regardless, you can't get caught up in the moment. I think they're still going to roll with the 6 guys that they had when they started the season. You have plenty of time with Chernak. You can't get caught up in the moment. I think the Lightning brass do that as well as anybody. Even some of the commentators and the people that follow this team as closely as we do, and some of our colleagues, some of the people are changing and saying, Eric Chernak, he's going to stay with the team. But I don't see that. The Lightning don't do that. The Lightning make sure that they're, going with the veterans, the experienced guys. Those guys are here. You have those 3 unrestricted free agents on D, but they've been playing well enough. So, I mean, it sucks to say that Chernak won't be in the lineup, but I don't think you take any of those other vets out.
Yeah, I mean, he's played extremely well, and I think he's gotten better as he's gone along. Usually when you see these guys come in, they play really well at the start when they make their NHL debut, because they're just all jacked up and wanting to prove that they belong. And then once kind of but once the grind of the season sets in and they played a few games, then you usually see their play dip a little bit. But his play hasn't dipped. I mean, he's just gotten better and better with each and every game. He's set a new career high for time on ice in the last game. Like, they're showing or giving him more responsibility as he goes along. But yeah, I don't know, like, who do you take out of that top 6 when everybody's healthy? I don't think you can take any of those guys out. I don't think anybody's warranted sitting the bench. With Chernak, it's a case of, is he the 7th defenseman that sits on the bench and doesn't get much playing time, or do you send him back to Syracuse where he can continue to play and grow his game? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think he's definitely warranted staying up here with the team. I just don't know. It's just kind of a numbers game right now. I definitely think he will be with this squad late in the year, when this team is making a push for the playoffs, when they're making that playoff run that we all expect. I think he will be a member of this team and will contribute in some way. But I think right now, if he's going to be sitting the bench as a seventh defenseman, he probably needs to go down to Syracuse and just get game action.
And Slater Cuckoo, you hate to say it, but he's used to being the seventh defenseman. He understands what his role is, and you don't want to stunt the growth of a guy like Eric Chernak. Get him down there, let him make sure he's playing. And it's kind of crazy that these things have a funny way of working themselves out. So you don't have to really make that decision now. Once we hear more about Anton Strawman and the Lightning and the Brass, and they'll have a tough decision on their hands. But judged on all the decisions they've made since Steve Yzerman and Jeffrey Vinnick and Julian Brisebois and Cooper have been here, you got to trust them. And I think that's one of the great things about this Tampa Bay Lightning team is tough decision. Sometimes the best decisions in life are the toughest ones you make, and the Lightning have a pretty good record of that so far. Brian Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. Follow him on Twitter at BBurnsNHL. You can follow the team at TB Lightning. Go to TampaBayLightning.com for all the best news and notes with the story you're working on today.
Just how this team wins, no matter what. Any kind of situation thrown at them, they've been finding different ways to win with guys out. That's kind of what I've been working on.
So head on over to TampaBayLightning.com. Check that out. Follow me on Twitter at JRecher. Follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Go to 95.3WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. We'll be here right in the DAE den from 3 to 7 with Ron and Ian today with some of our great listeners. Going to be a wonderful time there. Game tonight, up the dial on our sister station 970 WFLA and also on Fox Sports Sun. Next game Saturday. They also got a game Monday here against my hometown team, the New York Rangers. So we'll be back on Monday from either the DAE den or if we can kind of scourge and take the Fox Sports Sun desk, take that over. Make sure the lighting's good. So the lighting was not too bad today.
I think this works.
We're still working on it. That's Brian. I'm Jay. See you next time on Bolts Breakdown.